Deep in the frozen Arctic, where sunlight feels like a broken promise, through endless winter months, lives a creature born straight out of legend. The narwhal, it's not a mermaid, not a sea monster, but a small, gentle white whale carrying a spiral horn up to 3 meters long. Straight, gleaming, and as mesmerizing as a mythical spear. That horn, which is actually a tusk extending right through the upper lip, has turned the narwhal into a living symbol of the Arctic's magic and mystery. This extraordinary creature has been woven into the Inuit spirit and survival for thousands of years. To the Inuit, the narwhal is the heart and soul of the northern ice, the spirit of the hunting grounds scattered across the frozen seas of Canada, Greenland, and Russia. They're true citizens of the ice world, thriving in conditions most mammals couldn't endure. They dive miles beneath the dark sea, chasing flounder and squid through an underwater wilderness where pressure crushes and light never reaches. Their lives are a delicate dance between life and death, surfacing through narrow cracks in the ice, called poliñas, just long enough to breathe before vanishing again into the cold black deep. But it's that mysterious tusk that sparked centuries of fascination and debate. For hundreds of years, when narwhal tusks washed up on European shores, they were hailed as treasures of magic, believed to be the horns of unicorns, said to cure every illness and neutralize poison. Kings and queens paid fortunes for even a fragment of it, sealing its place as one of the ocean's greatest legends. For the Inuit, though, the narwhal's tusk is not some mystical ornament. It's life itself, a vital source of materials, food, and meaning. Their bond with the narwhal isn't about conquest. It's a partnership built on respect, knowledge, and balance with one of the harshest ecosystems on Earth.
In a world where danger hides beneath every frozen wave, hunting the narwhal is both a survival art and a sacred exchange between human and nature. It's a tradition whispered through generations, carried in the silence of kayaks and the weight of carved harpoons.
The hunt begins each summer, when herds of narwhals migrate along the edges of melting ice, marking the return of life, risk, and renewal to the Arctic Sea. This is the golden season when the sea finally opens up, giving hunters a short window to gather the protein and energy they'll need to survive the long Arctic winter. Hunting narwhal isn't a sport. It's an art form. It demands endless patience, absolute silence, and an almost supernatural ability to read the ice, the current, and the rhythm of the waves. Inuit hunters move quietly in kayaks or small boats, weaving between jagged icebergs. They have to become part of the landscape invisible, inaudible, because The narwhal's world is one of sound and vibration. One splash, one sudden move, and the entire pod can vanish into the deep for good. When they finally spot a pod, no one rushes in. They watch, they wait, learning to predict when and where the whales will rise to breathe. It's a test of instinct, almost a psychic connection between hunter and prey, forged by centuries of survival in the same frozen world. Then comes the decisive moment. When the kayak drifts within just a few meters, the hunter raises a traditional harpoon tied to a strong rope. The throw must be perfect, clean, sharp, and as humane as possible. Attached to the harpoon is a sealskin float, not just to mark the whale's location, but to slow it down, preventing the wounded animal from diving too deep and disappearing into the dark. Once the whale is secured, the whole community comes together. They tow it back to shore, sometimes to flat ice floes. Sometimes to rocky beaches, working as one, just as their ancestors did for countless generations. Every part of the narwhal has value. The meat is precious protein. The fat becomes fuel and heat. The skin, called muktuk, especially near the tail, is rich in vitamin C, a life-saving nutrient in a land where vegetables don't grow. Even the ivory tusk, once carved into tools and art, is now sold in limited trade. Helping Inuit families buy fuel, ammunition, and other essentials needed to survive in a changing Arctic. But today, this ancient practice faces new limits. Narwhal hunting is now strictly regulated by the governments of Canada and Greenland, guided by scientific research on population numbers. Each community receives a quota, a delicate balance meant to ensure that the hunt remains sustainable, and that the narwhal, the soul of the Arctic, will never disappear. The balance between ancient tradition and modern conservation is a fragile one. As the Arctic ice melts under the weight of climate change, narwhal habitats are shrinking, and global pressure from conservation groups continues to grow. For the Inuit, this is more than a policy debate. It's a crossroads. They must fight to preserve a way of life passed down through millennia, to hunt not for sport, but for survival, while facing the undeniable truth that the natural world itself is in danger. Yet beyond all the rules, beyond the politics and the controversy, the narwhal remains a bridge between human and myth, between science and spirit. Its twisted tusk isn't just a tooth, it's a living sensor. A biological antenna, capable of detecting pressure, temperature, and even salinity in the water. A tool for navigation and survival in the endless darkness beneath the ice. This discovery only deepens the Inuits' reverence for the creature. To them, the narwhal is not just life, it's wisdom. When the hunters return home, their catch is more than food. It's proof of harmony, a reminder of their sacred bond with the sea, the wind, and the unseen rhythm of the universe. Through every hunt, they reaffirm an ancient truth that survival in the Arctic depends on both the strength of the hunter and the grace of the hunted. In the end, the narwhal is not the enemy. It's a teacher, a companion, on a journey that has lasted for thousands of years across one of the loneliest, whitest edges of the world. But far from the frozen Arctic in the North Sea and the frigid waters along Europe's coasts, life takes on a very different kind of struggle. Here, the ocean isn't a quiet sanctuary. It's a battlefield. The cold bites, the waves crush, and in a place where the line between man and machine blurs, survival depends not on instinct, but on technology and steel aboard the massive trawler known as the Eye of the Sea. Everything revolves around one thing: the golden catch. Not a few fish, not a ton, but the dozens. Sometimes hundreds of tons in a single haul, enough to feed an entire city for weeks. Inside the warm cockpit, Captain Lars, a Swede, with eyes as sharp as the ice he sails through, stares at the sonar screen. The shifting blue and red curves aren't just patterns. They're the language of money, fuel, risk, and reward. It's been 3 days since they left the port of Rotterdam. And below deck, 15 men are preparing for their biggest job yet. No fishing rods, no trap. Their weapon, a woven monster of nylon and steel, the trawl net. But calling it a net hardly does it justice. It's not just a bag. It's a machine of precision, an architect of the hunt, a weapon built to harvest the ocean itself. What Lars was about to drop 400 meters below the surface wasn't just a fishing net. It was an engineered beast. Its mouth, stretched wider than a football field, held open by 2 enormous steel plates called trawl doors. Each one weighed several tons and sliced through the water with hydrodynamic precision, plowing the seafloor or hanging suspended in the current, forcing the net open like a gaping maw, devouring everything in its path. When Lars gave the signal over the radio, the ship came alive. The winches rumbled like a small earthquake. The crew moved in perfect rhythm, a choreography drilled into their muscles by years at sea. Meter by meter, a steel cable, as thick as a man's arm, unspooled into the black water, dragging the colossal net behind it. Cold seawater sprayed across the deck as the black mesh, reinforced to withstand the pulling force of hundreds of cars, sank into the deep. A hush fell over the ship. This was the moment when human power met the raw, unpredictable force of the ocean. Hours passed in tense silence. Far below, the trawl drifted through darkness, gathering schools of cod, salmon, flounder, and other prized whitefish. Sensors mounted along the net sent real-time data back to the cockpit, blinking lights that turned the invisible hunt into digital numbers. Lars watched the pressure gauge on the cable. A tiny fluctuation could mean anything, a massive catch or a disaster, if the net snagged on a reef or a forgotten wreck. This wasn't just a story of tons of fish. It was a story of hydraulics, of precision engineering, of mankind's attempt to master the deep with machines. And then, after a long, tense night, the radio crackled to life. Haul it up, close the hold, prepare to receive the cargo. That was when the real storm began, not from the sea, but from within the ship itself. The eye of the sea's hydraulic winches roared like wounded beasts, straining against impossible weight. The process was slow deliberately, so pulled too fast, and the sudden change in pressure could burst the fish's air sacs, ruining the meat, or worse, tearing a net worth more than a house. Steel screamed against steel, the sound echoing through the hull, like the ship itself was groaning under the invisible weight of the ocean. After 30 long minutes, the trawl doors finally surfaced, gleaming wet in the moonlight, as they rose along the ship's side. But this wasn't the catch. Not yet. These doors were just the heralds, the guides that led to what was still waiting below, the true prize of the deep. He knows what this voyage means. Ships, like his machines of power, precision, and profit, have changed the ocean forever. This is the price of progress. The fragile balance between feeding the world and preserving what's left of it. It's the burden. Every modern trawler carries the weight of abundance and the shadow of depletion. But for now, Lars allows himself a quiet moment. The warmth of money tucked deep in the company. Safe. The smell of salt and fish still clinging to his clothes. For a few hours, he's not an engineer of industry, just a captain, guiding his ship home after another battle with the sea. The eye of the sea moves slower now, its engines humming softly as it cuts through calmer water. The chaos of the hunt fades into silence. "15 exhausted men sleep scattered in their narrow bunks, rocked gently by the waves. The roar of the winches has been replaced by the rhythmic thrum of the diesel engines. A lullaby for men who've conquered the deep. They're no longer hunters tonight, only guardians of their cargo, protectors of the ocean's bounty resting below. Lars leans back in his worn leather chair, coffee steaming in his hand. He opens the logbook. 7 days at sea, 3 golden hulls, 6 standard ones. Each line tells a story of risk, exhaustion, and survival, bought one catch at a time. The total haul in the refrigerated hold, 250 tons, mostly North Atlantic cod and pollock, all sorted, cleaned, and frozen right on deck, locked in near-perfect freshness. It's the kind of number that makes any voyage worth it, but also one that keeps ecologists awake at night. Because behind every successful catch lies the question, how much can the ocean really give before it starts to break? As the eye of the sea nears the Dutch coast, the smell of fish blood and diesel fades, replaced by clean sea air, and the damp scent of land. The crew stirs, not for another shift, but for the final act, unloading. At dawn on the 8th day, the trawler looms into the port of Eoden, one of Europe's great seafood markets, where their long, sleepless labor will finally turn into cash. This is the moment of truth. The unloading begins, a ballet of machinery and precision. Crates of fish, stacked like gold brick, are hoisted out by shore crane. Each one is weighed, logged, checked, then rolled to the auction floor. 250 tons, emptied in under 5 hours, a testament to Europe's cold, flawless efficiency. Once the final crate is gone, Lars wipes his hands and follows the company's representative, a man in a spotless suit and glasses, into the seafood exchange. It's a cold, modern room. Rows of buyers from major food companies to small distributors stare at digital screens. There are no shouts, no hand gestures, just silence and speed. The eye of the sea's cod lot flashes on the monitor, coded, priced, waiting for the invisible hands of the market to decide its worth. Today, the global industrial fishing fleet pulls an estimated 80 to 90 million metric tons of fish from the ocean every year, according to data from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization (FAO). More than 65% of that catch comes from large mechanized trawlers like the Eye of the Sea, vessels capable of sweeping hundreds of square kilometers of seabed in a single day. While this efficiency keeps supermarket shelves stocked and global seafood trade worth over 270 billion US dollars, it also drives what scientists now call fishing down the food web. The gradual collapse of larger predator species and the targeting of smaller, lower-value fish just to sustain demand. In the North Atlantic alone, cod populations, once the backbone of European and Canadian coastal economies, have declined by nearly 90% since the mid-20th century. Marine biologists warn that without stricter quota enforcement and sustainable practices, trawlers could empty entire ecosystems faster than they can recover. So while Lars and his crew sail home with their well-earned prize, the question echoes across every port. How long can the sea keep giving before it's finally fished to silence? Two worlds. The silent hunt of the Inuit in the Arctic and the roaring steel of industrial trawlers in Europe. Both draw life from the same ocean, yet one takes only what it needs, while the other takes everything it can. So the question is, where do we draw the line between survival and greed? Between tradition and technology? Between honoring the sea and consuming it to death? What do you think? Drop your thoughts below. We read every single comment. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, don't just watch the shock, be part of it. Like, subscribe, and join the Real Shock community where every story dives deeper and every wave hides another truth. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for standing with those who respect the sea. We'll see you in the next reel.